All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Matt Chat. Really an honor and newsworthy today to be joined by the newest member of the Arizona State coaching staff, Olympian and NCAA wrestling champion, Frank Molinaro. Frank, thanks for jumping on with me, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so a lot of things been going on in your life. We're going to jump around a little bit, but one of the weird things about phones and Facebooks and things like that is 4 years ago today, it popped up on my phone. I was at the Olympic trials, and so were you. So when you think about that, coming from the seed you were at and coming through the tournament and the epic 2 out of 3 with Pico and then having to go qualify the weight and just all the stuff that goes with that. I mean, did you even realize that was 4 years ago today? And, how did that change your life and everything, involving that?
That was an exciting time. I think, when you're in those moments, you want them so bad and you work so hard for them, but, you don't really know, what the future holds. But hitting those markers for me and winning the Olympic trials and, that breakthrough in my career, it really did change the trajectory of just the way I approach wrestling. It changed some of my beliefs. I certainly believe anything is possible. I believed it then, but, I think now I've got an even greater view of that. And just the way I approached my training and the way I approached the way my mindset was and just the experience, really, it called me into many more overseas competition, resources, training opportunities, and ultimately kind of led me to Arizona State in the end, which was, really where my eyes were always set on was coaching after I was done in wrestling. So it definitely gave me a greater view of what's possible and increased my faith and knowledge.
I would guess to say it probably opened some opportunities for you as well, opened some doors because, like when people can say, hey, state champion, like that's good on your resume. College All-American, that's good on your resume. National champion Division I, that's amazing on your resume. To be able to say Olympian and, top 5 at the Olympics, I think people's perception of you had to change for the better. And then people want to have you around, simple things like probably more opportunities for clinics and things like that. And then the opportunity to travel and train. And like you said, and we'll jump into the Arizona State thing here in a second, but how much more have you been able to fill your brain with wrestling from just the best people in the world because of that? I think probably was as good as you were. Probably you got even a crash course in super high level wrestling from 2016 till now, I would guess.
Yeah, exactly. And, the great thing about being from United States was when I made the team in 2016, everybody kind of joins forces, all of the RTCs, all of the accomplished wrestlers, all the coaches, and we all kind of put our heads together. So, I got a ton of information. I got a ton of personal attention from all different kinds of coaches from all over the country, that I might not have got the opportunity to spend time with and work with. But, when you're the guy and you're representing your country, the whole country was behind me. So I just think that short period of time, that is really second to none. And then on top of that, just the experience of competing with the best guys in the world at the highest platform, because that was always my dream as a kid. And,
Sure.
It's one thing to say, you can compete with the best guys in the world, but the Olympics, what I've always told myself and stupid enough to believe that I can beat and compete with everyone in the world. And I was lucky that, blessed me with those opportunities and also put those people in my life that poured into me and gave me their passion and enthusiasm and expertise and lifelong experience. And, a lot of that head knowledge that I had from the past, it became heart knowledge and really kind of guides the way I'll coach my athletes and guides the way that, I'll try to give back to the next people that I'm helping. So it was really beneficial, incredible support throughout the process.
You're not the first guy that's told me that like once you make a world team or an Olympic team, how, like whether you're a Penn State person, an Arizona State person, an Iowa person, that gets pressed down versus being a USA person. But I'm interested in maybe there's a person or two that really sunk themselves into you that we wouldn't expect? Like, was there like a Mark Manning or a John Smith or a Tom Brands or somebody like that that really gave you, some meaningful help?
Yeah, no one really too specific. I would say, some people that I really connected with along that process were people like Jaden Cox, Kyle Snyder, those type, Jordan Burroughs, all of those guys. I've always had a good relationship, but when you're in those tough situations and you're going through those same battles and you have the same goals, I really learned a lot, and Jaden Cox he's an incredible competitor, incredible
Yeah.
human being, great person. So, me and him were kind of I guess you would say, the underdogs or the upset stories. So that brought us closer together, being that we were both the ninth seed. And, he was a little bit younger. I was a little bit older. So it was a great fit. And, I learned a ton from him. And I'm still have a great relationship with him, and I'm still able to learn. We share information and try to help each other in ways outside of wrestling as well. So he was a great influence outside of the coaches.
How much do you guys at that level literally, like, do you talk to each other like, hey, I get in on this single leg and I'm having trouble finishing, or hey, this guy gets my leg in the air and you're doing this, how do you do that? How much do you guys trade tips, especially with guys that are different weight classes? Like, to use Jaden as an example,
Mm-hmm.
you guys would ever wrestle, be stuck having to wrestle each other. So I mean, do you guys trade a lot of knowledge, or is it more just general friendship and support?
Yeah, I mean, as much as possible, everybody is really helping everybody. Even the people that came to the Olympics that were the alternates, even giving those guys credit, because that's another kind of the question people expect it to learn from and be able to work with. And, I was fortunate enough to have Logan Stieber. He's a four-time NCAA champion, a world champion. And in what way, shape, or form would I ever have pictured, Logan helping me get ready for a tournament? So, yeah, I tried to utilize it as much as possible. And I think the other people did too. And the guys, that are proficient in certain areas, they're going to go help the guys that maybe they need work in a certain area. So it's really just about being resourceful. And at the end of the day, it's on you, to make sure that you get everything you need to put yourself in a position to win the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're obviously going to transition to the next chapter of your wrestling, of your life and your wrestling life, which is coaching. But in terms of competing, I would assume obviously making the Olympic team is at the top of your memories, but of your favorite memories. But is there a couple other ones that really stand out along the way, like a state title or a national title, or just some big match, some things that maybe we don't know about?
Yeah, I'd say probably two of my favorite matches that I don't really talk about too much was 2012, the Big Ten Finals. I tech falled Dylan Ness, who I've had some close battles with during the year, 5-6 point matches, but kind of really blew it open in the finals to pull us ahead, and we won the team title. So that was a really cool experience. I think, yeah, I got outstanding wrestler as well in that tournament with Kellen Russell. So the Big Ten Finals was awesome. And then my NCAA championships match, because that was a match where my second round into the tournament, I had a pretty traumatic injury to my knee. So I had to battle through the tournament with a tear in my MCL. And, it was really gut wrenching. I put my life and heart and soul into winning. And, just that last match, I remember warming up. I remember walking out to the mat. It's, I can't forget those memories. That's the good thing about, doing something that maybe you weren't capable of doing on your own, but just feeling, God empower you through it. You never forget those things. They stick with you forever.
Yeah,
And that memory will stick with me forever, winning that match.
that's cool. Is there maybe a loss or two that you took along the way that really, I think most people that have competed would agree that you learn a lot more when you lose than when you win? Is there maybe a specific loss or two that either helped you get stronger mentally, helped you like go back to the drawing board? Like I remember when John Smith said he lost his sophomore year in the finals, like that changed him as a wrestler. Like what Jordan did to him, he tried to take it and make it even better. Was there a
Right.
turning point match or two that where you didn't win, but you ended up being a lot better because of that?
Absolutely. There was several of those matches. One of them, was actually in freestyle in 2015. I lost to Jimmy Kennedy at the World Team Trials. I think that was in Madison, Wisconsin. And to me, it was just heartbreaking. It just felt like the first year in about 15 or so years that I didn't really hit a milestone or get better at wrestling at the end of the year. I couldn't look back and see the silver lining. And I just took it very personal. I feel like I wasn't prepared mentally in the match. And, I came up short. Another one was my freshman year of high school. I lost in the round place. And again, I was devastated because that was one of my goals, to be a 4-time place winner and win the states and, just have that consistency, and fell short there. So that really motivated me. And I mean, of course, that Kyle Dake loss. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a bonehead match. I'll say it. I don't care. It was a bonehead match. But I'll tell you what, though, it was a great loss for me at the end of the day, because when I woke up the next day after that Nationals match, I just had a sickening obsession to win. Every day, I tried to focus it on winning the national tournament the next year, and almost to an unhealthy level. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But point being, that match really kind of humbled me in a way that no other match ever has. So those matches stand out the most.
I think the honesty in that description is,
Yeah,
it's
it's true.
hard. Yeah, but it's, you could skip it. No one's going to bring it up.
Right.
So I mean,
It was good though.
it is. And I mean, I'm guessing you probably spent a lot of time working on bottom, and, the specific cost you in that match, so as somebody who's now a coach, and I'm sure you've been coaching guys along the way anyway, but now in your formal role, I think those are really good stories and good examples to be able to point out to people, to the kids
Yeah.
you're going to be coaching next. Like,
Definitely.
And I always thought, like, when a guy wins, you're a lot younger than me. Like, if you win, I can kind of get after you on Monday or Sunday and, like, hey, Frank, you did these 5 things wrong, because you can take it. But when
That's true.
you almost got to find, well, look, you did this well. If we can just improve this, I think you can beat this guy the next time. And, we see so many changes, like, and I do the rankings for track, and, like, we'll have person X above person Y, and then person Y will beat him. And it's like, we're not surprised. It's just beat him the first time. But we saw the adjustments that could be made, and they got made. So that's really interesting.
I like what you said too about, also improving from bottom, because I think what it also did too, another perspective is, it made me a killer on top. My senior year, it made me a killer. There were certain things that I hadn't considered, or ways to ride, strategies, tactics, and technique that Kyle was exceptionally good at, that also kind of opened up my scope on top. Now it's like I have all different kinds of weapons that I didn't have from that match as well, on the other side of it. So it is always good. I think the hardest part is being able to put yourself out there, have those setbacks, and then build that resiliency where you can, not get bitter from it, but get better from it. And the difference is, if you can do that continually for the rest of your career, you'll look back and you'll have a great career that you'll be proud of. But a lot of times what happens is, and I've been stuck in these plateaus before where, I get all the way up to here and then I get flatlined in those setbacks. There's a long gap between, getting back and making good on that failure and making good on that loss, and then also having the guts to go do it again, to go risk it for the biscuit. So it's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
I had Kendall Cross on a while back, and he used a statement that I think is really good for people that are coaches. He said, learning and improvement is not linear. All these coaches are like, hey, we got 1% better every day. Well, if I take away your high crotch, like, I remember my dad, like, when he was coaching me, I had a pretty good high crotch. So we would get in practice and he would, no high crotch today. But he wouldn't tell the other, the guys I was wrestling. He would just come over to me and go, no high crotch. So I had to learn a sweep, or I had to learn a drag or a duck, or, what's some other attack. Well, you're not going to get better right away because you're trying things, and you got to figure out what works. And you might even get to that leg but not finish, or, just not get to it and get go behind or whatever else. And I think,
right.
I'm sure when you got better on top, you probably got reversed in a skating while you were figuring that out, But it's interesting that not only did you just improve on bottom, but there's a whole mental side of just riding guys hard. And also,
Right.
man, I can't pick down against Frank because I'm probably, I should score first in the period I have choice on. And if I pick down, I might actually lose a point because I'm not going to get out and he's going to get riding time. And that changes the whole paradigm of the match and your whole strategy going into the match if you know you can do that.
It sure does.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So, I mean, you've you've had a chance to, you trained at Penn State with Kale, and then you've been under a guy like Lou, who coached a gazillion world team members. Are there a couple, gems that have you kind of got from those guys, either I guess probably more mentally or approach to big matches? They seem like those guys at those levels, their guys always seem like the moment's not too big for them. Is there something you learned from them that you'll be able to pass on to your guys?
Absolutely. I think if you look hard enough, you can learn a lesson from just about anyone or anything. But in particular to those two people, the one thing with Kale, he's the ultimate competitor. It doesn't matter if you're playing him in racquetball or you're playing him in dodgeball. He's the ultimate competitor. He loves to compete. He loves to win, and he hates to lose more than he loves to win. And I think the second part about him is he does a really good job of always having the right perspective. I think I would say, beyond, what I can see, he always is grateful to have the opportunity to coach. And he's always been grateful to compete. You can see it when he wrestles in his enthusiasm and passion. And you can see it now in his coaching. So kind of just always keeping that perspective and having gratitude and the competitiveness side with Coach Kale. And Roselli, that's an easy one. His identity is work and toughness. And, that was the one gem that I took from coming to Oklahoma that stands apart from the rest was I thought I had, one of the strongest work ethics out there. Yeah, I thought nobody works harder than me. I'll outsuffer anyone on any day. And when I came here, Coach Roselli increased my workload, and really just kind of opened my eyes up to a whole nother level of work I could be doing. And I really liked how he had for everything, a system for, top parterre, a system for single leg defense, a system for finishing high crotches, and the toughness. He also taught me just the fact that nobody really cares, in the sense that, you lose and you think everybody cares, but the reality is everybody has their own problems to worry about and everybody has their own things that they're concerned about. And you think they care so much, they see it on their phone, they flip through, the next day it's the next story. So they really don't care. And you spend a lot of time worrying about how much they care, but his work ethic is cool, to say the least. And I just like his toughness. He doesn't worry about, having to meet everyone's emotional needs or please everyone. He does it for himself and for his family. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think if I know you will, you'll find that balance between that toughness and that work ethic, and it sounds like also the organizational system. I'm a big be organized,
Me too.
spreadsheet kind of guy, and combine that with the fun and the gratitude of what you learned, at your previous stop. I mean, that's a great baseline to start influencing the new guys you're going to coach. So let's jump into this. So Arizona State. Obviously, you've done interviews like right when you first retired, so I'm not going to, people can go listen to that. But was it a difficult decision, I guess, big picture? Did you want to go coach NCAA or did you want to coach as an RTC? Let's start with that. And why? Why one over the other? Or did you not care and you just wanted to coach at a high level?
Yeah, so, I met my wife. Obviously, you gotta be a family decision for me. I got a wife and 3 kids, so now all of my decisions, they're not just about, putting myself in the best position for my competitive career, it's putting my family in the best position. And I met my wife at Rutgers University. We were both coaches there at the time. And she was from the West Coast. She was from Oregon. She had moved out there. So our dream, kind of our long dream in a distance was somehow, some way to end up on a state. And there were a few times along the way where it looked possible and it looked like our expectations were going to align, but kind of fell through. And then when I graduated or when I retired and I moved on and Chris Pendleton took the Oregon State job and the ASU job opened up, for me, I went after that opportunity very hard, and it was just perfect timing. But I really like college because I feel like, it's a good balance for me to be able to make a positive impact on kids' lives and develop those personal relationships that hopefully someday, they can count on me somewhere down the road for life, that I could be a resource for someone to call and someone to lean on in hard times. And, also just to be able to help them reach their full potential. I think college is a great outlet because, they're still pretty young. They have their own belief system, and you really spend an exorbitant amount of time around them. So you have a lot of influence and you really shape their mentality and direct them and facilitate all of their skills and gifts. And I just feel like that's where I could be used the most with my talents. And also, I love folk style. So I love folk style. I feel like I have strong mat skills. And, bringing that to the table is also fun to kind of pass those skills along as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, I saw the quotes, the press releases and everything that Arizona State was like this dream job. And
Yeah.
frankly, you don't know, like people are going to say that, right? Like, I mean, like, you
Right. Right.
that, I mean, you're supposed to say that. It's the right thing to say politically. It's interesting that, with the West Coast ties and everything else. And I also think it's interesting that you actually pursued the job, so there's three people right off the top of my head that I know you're going to work with very closely, well, two very closely and one at least, directly. And that's, Zeke Jones, Lee Pritz, and Art Martori. I've been lucky enough to have all three of these guys on my show, and I've known Lee forever. But let's start with Zeke. What is your relationship? Right now, obviously, you have to have some sort of world team connections, I would guess. What are your expectations of what it's going to be like to work with Zeke?
Right. And, just one last thing about the Arizona State thing, too. Both of my wife's parents graduated from Arizona State, and they lived there for a good part of their life. And they live in Las Vegas right now. And my father-in-law wrestled for Bobby Douglas, Kerry Bolin. So,
Okay.
that was also really cool, too. If there
Yeah.
was an opportunity I can coach for my father-in-law's alma mater, that was something really that kind of added fuel to the fire. So my first interaction with Zeke, and this is also another reason why I've always longed to work with Zeke or for Zeke in some capacity. When I was early on in my freestyle career, I had no experience. I didn't wrestle in Fargo. It was 2013. I decided I wanted to go all in, try to make an Olympic team. And I figured, my dad said, first thing you should do is reach out to Coach Jones and see what he thinks you should do. And so I wrote Zeke an email, and I really didn't expect to get much of an email back. I wasn't even ranked at that point. And I had all these questions. I'm real, like you, real organized, and I said, what do I got to do? Like, how long is it going to take? What is blah, 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 blah. And literally, I think it was like a day or two later, he wrote me like a 2-3 page email with just absolute insane detail, of things that I can do and ideas that he shared and information that, he passed along to me. And then when I was able to wrestle, I made the national team. So I made the national team when Zeke was the coach, when Bruce was the coach, and when Bill was the coach.
Wow.
And, Zeke really set me up for success from the start because, I started to look at wrestling in a little bit more analytical type of way. I started, because Zeke was following across the world. He was seeing what turns were working the most, where were people, losing the most finishes, where did we need to work on the edge of the mat. And he really just had all of the details. And it also opened my eyes that the details matter. When he was the head coach, I saw, a huge benefit and, from just making those corrections and fixing those small mistakes and, actually zooming in more. It's not overthinking, it's trying to be more competent and trying to be more rehearsed and well-rounded. And I think sometimes in the past, I might have wrote some of that stuff off, some of those finer details for just being a little overconfident versus being more competent. And that's the thing about Zeke, he's a mastermind in terms of the details, in terms of the preparation. I'm pretty sure when he was the world champion, it was voted on by the wrestlers. And I believe he got voted the most technical wrestler, which is incredible if you think about it.
Only two Americans have ever won that award. Yeah.
Was Dave Schultz the other one?
It's Chris Campbell, actually.
Chris Campbell, very cool. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, but go ahead. I didn't interrupt you.
And I like his organization. I like that he carefully planned, and he's a positive guy. Also, very easy for me to communicate with. So communication is key at this level, I believe, and the details are extremely important. So having someone that I can communicate with, and having a mentor who can kind of guide me into the next phase of my coaching career with all the experience already as a national team coach, as a head coach, Ivy League coach. For me, it's a slam dunk. Now I got to do my part for Arizona State.
Yeah. Well, I actually talked to Pritz when I first heard this, this was blowing in the wind, it might happen. And he said that, you guys knew each other, not on a super high level, but a lot of it was like just sauna workouts and stuff like that.
Yep.
What's your relationship like with Lee, and what do you think you can pick his brain on?
Yeah. And man, Lee's another one. If you look at his track and his college coaching resume, it's impressive stuff. I mean, he's had success at every program that he's been at, and he's even had such success that they brought him back to the program, and they're still calling him about the program. So, the one thing that I've noticed, even in my short time with Lee, is, the people that he interacts with on a daily basis, he's got those long-term personal relationships because he puts in the time. He's very positive, which is another thing I really like about him. Super positive. He's got no ego. He's a wrestling head. He loves to work hard. He's not worried or concerned about getting credit or who does what. He just wants to win, and those are the kind of people that I can relate to, and the kind of people that I want to be around and surround myself with. So, those are the kind of things that I've noticed right away. And also, like Zeke, very easy to communicate with Lee. I think Lee he's like a chameleon. He can get along with everybody and talk to anybody. So it's been real easy. We had to do this thing through the phone and through Zoom, and it's a little bit different, but very easy with Lee because he's just a easy guy to talk to, and he's also an easy guy because he listens and gives you good information as well.
Yeah, he's also one of the most tireless and one of the most effective recruiters in the country, period. So,
Right.
And that'll be obviously a skill set that you'll develop, you'll need to be a great coach, if you, can't
Right.
first race with a bunch of Clydesdales. So, I mean, you guys will, go keep getting hammers, but he's as good as it gets at that. And he's also a guy, when I first started learning about the recruiting game, about him and four other guys, completely, let me pick his brain and learn. And,
Mm-hmm.
I call him intellectually generous. What he knows, he's
Yeah.
happy to give. So, and then another guy, probably the most terrifying podcast I ever did was with Art Martori. Not a scary guy at all.
No.
He's just next level legend. Like when you think about the legend, he's like the one legend nobody talks about, but all the legends look up to, like the John Smiths, the Kenny Mondays, and Art was beyond instrumental in saving Olympic wrestling. So when you obviously Art's, Sunkissed Kids, tied to Arizona State, I mean, they're synonymous. It's not like, you never stepped on a freestyle mat before, so I'm sure you're going to have influence on those people as well. When you think about being able to interact and work, under or alongside an Art Martori, what kind of things come to mind there?
Man, he's an incredible. I never really got the luxury of spending time around him, being from the East Coast and Art from the West Coast and out here with Sunkist. But I have had the pleasure to spend a lot of time with Dr. Hines. He lives out here in Oklahoma City, and he's a great friend of Art. They're lifelong friends, and just the stuff that he's been able to share with me about Art and Art's vision and how he's helped Sunkiss, and how, like you said, how he helped USA Wrestling and saved them. And it's all really encouraging stuff. And, I'm looking forward, to having another mentor, as successful as he is. Art's a high achiever, right? He's succeeded at every level, probably at everything he's done his whole life. So another person that I really would love to continue to surround myself with and learn from and pick his brain. And again, I just want to do my part. I know he loves ASU wrestling as well.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for his support, and, go ahead on this, would have been hard because he's the man with the plan and, just trying to do my part and get back to ASU at the end of the day.
Well, I talk about a lot of people that have like the CEO mentality. The
Hmm.
best way to have a CEO mentality is to actually be a CEO. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
guy
true.
that has it in spades. And, I just know the one interview I did with him, he's also like the most genuine guy. Cause like at the end of the interview,
Right.
I thanked him and he was so funny. We're still on the air. I go, hey, Mr. Martori, I really appreciate it. And he goes, I wasn't looking forward to this at all, but it actually wasn't too bad. He said that on the air.
I like that honesty. That's good. Yeah. Very authentic guy.
Yeah, I took the fact that he stayed on with me for 45 minutes. I took the W and just exited gracefully. So,
That's good. That's good.
well, I see in the background there you've got a sign that says faith and hope, and I think your faith and your walk with the Lord is pretty well known. But when you were going through the decision to retire and to pursue coaching, and then just going forward, how do you think your faith guides you in all these different things?
I think it's just making sure that I don't lose focus and get too zoomed in on, things that don't matter, things that are not important to the grand scheme of things. So, I kind of try to keep my focus and my lens clear, and I try to keep them open. So I really go by feel. I not a huge planner in terms of I want my whole life planned out for me. And I know when a decision feels right to me, my intuition tells me to do it, and I pray on it, and I pursue it, and it continues to lead me in the right direction. I just go for it, flip the switch on it, and it's really my faith has really given me that power, to be able to pursue something and to be able to fail in the process of it, but to also end up at that destination because my faith, it really gives me the strength and it gives me the guidance to make the right decisions. I never have to second guess them because they're coming from a place of freedom and a place of direction and guidance. And, as long as I stay with my eyes on that source, everything else kind of falls into place. And, there's a rhythm to my life. But, when I lose that focus, and I lose that guidance, then my rhythm can get off and then I might not make decisions, and the reality is there's consequences to all your decisions. So I try to keep my focus on that. And I feel like it's always led me in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's well said. And I think inner peace is one of the things, no matter how successful
Inner
you
peace.
are in life, if you don't have that, it's hard to have a happy life. And if you do have that, a lot of the material things, don't matter as much. So
Exactly.
we talked about this before you came on the air, that there's a lot of people that have poured themselves into you and your family that have allowed you to accomplish what you have, both as an athlete and position you to now be a successful coach. So I definitely want to give you our platform and give you a few minutes, and please take your time, be as detailed as you want. Thank anybody that you'd like to thank for kind of helping you get along the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One person that I really want to thank, who's really probably shaped my life, indefinitely, is Jack Spates. He was the former coach at Oklahoma, and you know, part of the reason why retirement was so easy and making my next decision was so easy, and overcoming some of those hurdles in 2019, getting down to 65 kilos, and just some of the things that I was wrestling with in my soul. Jack has been an incredible spiritual mentor. He's been an incredible life coach. He's given me sage advice on every aspect of my life, from my marriage to my kids to my future, to also being the guy, to kind of grab me by the back of the neck and say, no, that's not how you do this. Because it's hard to find people in life that, they care enough about you to tell you the hard truth, or tell you when you're being a knucklehead, or tell you when, your head's getting too big, or also just to encourage you when you're down in the dumps. And, coming out to OU, had I not came here before I went out into the coaching world and I went out into the next phase of my life and pursued that, I think things could have been different. And I fear, and in my own mind, I fear what would have happened had I not come here. So I can't say it enough. Jack Spates has been an incredible role model. And, what he does for college wrestling and, what he does with his gifts, spiritual gifts and his passions, it's very, very admirable. And, I love Jack to death, and I'm sure me and him will have a relationship with ever. My family loves him. My kids love him. So shout out to Jack Spates. Always can't say enough, for my rec coaches, club coaches, and high school coaches. Some of the things that I still do when I run practices and workouts, they come from my roots. When I wrestled at BYAA, Bayshore Youth Athletic Association, with Hugo Pinto. And, just some of the things I learned there, they've always stuck with me. I'll teach my kids wrestling a similar way. And I'll even teach college kids with things that I learned from Hugo Pinto and Vinny Santinello at the Short Thing Wrestling Club. He was a great, great coach and role model. And, one of the things about Vinny that I love most, and he set me up for success the rest of my career, was just taught me how to love wrestling, how to have fun when I'd come to club practice, second practice of the day, 6:30. He'd find a way to make practice fun, but also make sure that we got something out of it and we got better and we got the right stuff. And my high school coaches, John Stout, the one thing John taught me above everything else in my career was to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it sounds cliche, but listen, you survive 3 or 4 years with John Stout in that high school room, you're going to come out tougher, regardless of what the results are in your wrestling career. So he really taught me how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Jerry Tabacino, lifelong friend. I joke around. I say he's like Yoda. He still gives me great advice. And he's just another guy. When you talk about art and you talk about how he's genuine and authentic, that's very similar to Jerry Tabacino, just very real, keeps it real, doesn't beat around the bush, straight shooter, genuine. So Coach Tabacino was great. Cody Sanderson, he was my personal coach at Penn State. Just a great person overall. Cody's got a good soul. He's got a great heart. And, we went through that journey together, and he was there every step of the way, from the last chance qualifier to, my stupid rituals before the match and doing whatever that he could do to kind of make me happy and feel confident. So Cody was incredible. So yeah, big thanks to him, because now we're always be lifelong friends, and now we're competing against each other. But just so he knows, I really appreciate him. And Bruce Burnett, he is also like a second father to me. Bruce is a great man. He's set himself up for success, because he was a good person, the way he lived his life, the way he treated people, his willingness to give back. I forget how you put it before, just his generosity to
intellectual generosity is
that's a good way to put it with Bruce, because, I think Bruce was an innovator, and he was ahead of his time, and he was kind of ahead of some of the trends and curves and, different, very cerebral, contemplative approach to wrestling. And I think you saw it bleed down to the other national team coaches. I think you saw it bleed down to some of the greats in our sport. And, they went on to teach other people. So, credible innovator. And then, just the other national team coaches, they have a big part in, your development process. Zeke Jones, Bill Zadek, and Bill, another outstanding person. Bill has always been great to me, just like Zeke. When I wasn't a contender, I wasn't the guy. Bill always gave me the time of day. And, I still have a great relationship with Bill. And, I've always admired his people skills and his ability to, kind of meet everyone's needs and encourage everyone. And also great wrestler, great technician. So, those people kind of popping in my head right now. And, I'd be crazy if I didn't mention my parents, what they did for me. My mom she'd drive an hour to work, an hour home, put us in the car, drive half hour to our club practice, and a half hour home while I slept the whole way. And she sacrificed a lot. My parents sacrificed the better half of their life to make sure that my brother and I were successful. And my brother's an officer in the Navy. He works at the Pentagon, and they set him up for success and helped him reach his goals. And they've most certainly helped me reach my goals and set me up for success. And, and last but not least, my wife, she's my better half. she's really taught me the patience that I lacked, my entire life. Some of the things that I've wrestled with the most, just that patience part, and just being a better listener, and being a better learner and a better person. She has impeccable character. She has impeccable loyalty and integrity. And she's just a person that, is one of my heroes in life. And I'd say one more person too would be my grandfather. I think when I was a young kid, I always looked up to the way he treated people. He ran a factory, and he would go down and he would eat lunch with the people and the factory workers, and he knew all of their names. He knew what sports their kids were in. He asked them questions. He engaged in them. He never thought he was better than anyone because of his position. He led by character, and he loved his family, and he would do anything for his family. And those are the things I admired and looked up to, and those are the things that I try to emulate in my own life. So, just shout out to those people for, just being great people and great role models in my life. And my mother, I think my mom is just a testament of hard work and consistency. I think my she's in her late 50s, 60s. I don't know exactly how old she is, but she probably works just as hard, if not harder than I work, and
my mom's the same way.
she doesn't sit down, wakes up, trying to help 50,000 people. And she just gives outwardly so generously that, it just goes to show she's doing it for the right reasons. And they've taught me humility and just how to be sincere. So those are the people I'm just kind of popping in my head right now that I just want to thank the most.
Well said, man. Well, I actually went to Arizona State in November to watch the duel with Penn State.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, well, we had literally front row seats. That place is ready to support wrestling. I mean, they blew the lid off that dome. They broke the attendance record by 3,000. Right. And I remember I was with a buddy of mine. I was grabbing some after-match interviews, and we're at the Kassar Hall match. I go, one of two things is going to happen. He goes, what? I go, Hall's not going to get pinned, and this place is going to explode. I said, or Kassar's going to figure out a way to pin him. And I said, yeah, I have to go get interviews. It'll either be with this side or this side. So I said, stay here. And so as soon as 10 seconds left, I started running down there because I knew what was going to happen. And he hadn't been to a wrestling meet there in years. And we left and, grabbed dinner. He's like, oh my God, that was insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So listen, man, I know you've always been great coming on the show whenever I asked, and I appreciate it.
You bet.
Donated stuff to our charity event before, so I want to thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And I'm sure I'll be in touch with you guys in the fall. Maybe we'll get you back on the show after your first 100 days or so.
Sounds good. Go Sun Devils.
Works up, right?
Yes.
All right, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Frank Molinaro. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back soon.